Have you ever wondered why, even though you're spending a lot of time in the practice room, you really don't see much progress in regards to results? You've practiced your scales, perfected them even. You've practiced your arpeggios. They sound great in the practice room. You've learned licks from great players. But when you're up to bat on the backing track at home or the solo at the jam session, you go for gold and none of the ideas you've been working on come out. I gotta say, it's not your fault. For years and years, people have been prescribing nonsense exercises and routines based on gut feelings rather than science. In this lesson, I'll share 5 steps to start sounding more confident and better on your guitar solos today. But why listen to me? Well, my name is Daniel Seraph and I'm a professional guitar instructor specializing in creative guitar lessons. I've taught over 25,000 one-to-one guitar lessons. I've taught at universities and even at national and international guitar festivals. I focus on helping intermediate guitar players break through plateaus based on science-backed practice habits. No nonsense, no time wasters. Let's jump in. Step 1. Stop wasting your time with a metronome. You know how so many great players say to practice how you play? Seriously, how many times are you going to be playing to a metronome on the gig? As a guitarist, no. You're listening to the drums, the bass, and the rest of the band. Now, I'm not saying that all metronome practice is bad by any means. I'm saying that it could be a great tool, but I highly recommend only using it for advanced guitar practice, not as a tool to practice scales, arpeggios, and other technical stuff that you want to apply creatively. So what should you use instead? At a very minimum, there are many great drummers who've shared grooves online, both for free and paid. You could literally access some of the best drummers in the world right there from your computer. When I'm doing technical exercises like my simple 2 and 3 finger chromatic warm-ups, I often use great drum tracks inside of a DAW like Ableton. Let me show you. Like fingers 1 and 2, maybe for 30 seconds, then 1 and 3 for 30 seconds, 1 and 4 for 30 seconds, 2, 3, 2, 4, and 3, 4. Working on my alternate pick-in, just a nice little warm-up. I love to use drums for that. If I'm working over specific chord changes or songs or keys, I end up using great sounding backing tracks, but not just any random backing tracks. And I'm actually not saying that you have to make your own, but I make my own and I encourage it. It's a great challenge in and of itself, even if you play just simple chords. It also allows you to target all of your weaknesses, and you really hear back your own skills in the recording studio when you're recording with, say, a looper that has drums, or Ableton, or Pro Tools, or Logic. But if you're not ready for that yet, just use some of the great backing tracks available online. I actually include 50 free backing tracks in my free download at www.soloonguitar.com, so make sure to check those out. Step 2 of better practice. With your backing tracks, I really recommend that you stop doing 2 specific things. Number 1, I love to play the guitar. I love to jam. I love to let loose and be creative. This is an important part of guitar playing. However, this is not practice. This is playing. So my challenge to you is to stop noodling over backing tracks as your main practice routine for creative guitar playing. It is not effective, and it's not going to be the best use of your time. It is playing, which is great, but we talking about practice. The second thing that is very related, although you're less likely to do it on backing tracks, is stop playing scales straight up and down. If you want to be creative on the guitar, you need to be building a specific catalog of improv activities, or improv games as I like to call them. You want to target your weaknesses. Let's say you're struggling with pull-offs. Like many intermediate guitarists do, they can be challenging. My challenge for you is to spend 1 to 2 minutes of your practice session targeting pull-offs in an improvisation. Let me show you how I might target pull-offs. This track is in F minor. I literally find where are all the locations inside of the scale that I can find and do a pull-off. Sometimes you try slower pull-offs. Sometimes faster. You'll actually stumble upon new ways of pulling off that won't come out in your regular noodling kind of practice. Your pull-offs will actually get better much more quickly than if you were just practicing some verbatim exercise that you play over and over and over. This stuff will actually come out when you try them on your next guitar solo, live with your bandmates or on that backing track that you're jamming on. Another example, let's say you're learning a new scale shape or a new type of scale that you want to use in improvisation. Target that scale shape specifically over a track. This is kind of like an F minor, F dominant kind of groovy track. A great sound would be the F Dorian scale. So let's say we were jamming on that scale pattern, and rather than just practicing it straight up and down, trying to perfect it, find where the maybe awkward fingerings are. See if you can play there and play confidently. Let's see. This particular scale has a little bit of a shift to get to that B string. So if I found an awkward spot right there, maybe I would try and buff it out, so to speak. This particular scale is pretty pinky heavy. So I would try and iron out and buff out those little sections of the scale to try and make them feel a bit more comfortable. Another really interesting and important thing to pay attention to is where are the notes that don't necessarily sound good on the chords, or they don't sound good to land on. A pro tip, landing on the 4 of a major chord sounds kind of bad. So if I landed on this kind of F7 chord, the 4th is the B flat. I know that I don't want to stay there in my improvisations. I discover that by paying attention, realizing what I'm playing over, and practicing specifically. So I challenge you, notice these notes. Make note of it. These are just a couple examples that will fast track your creative soloing and improv. Think about these little limitation or constraints practice ideas and target your weakness. This literally could be an entire practice session in and of itself. And now to introduce the sponsor of this video, Mastering Diagonal Arpeggios. Mastering Diagonal Arpeggios is one of my flagship courses that helps you play arpeggios fluently across the entire guitar neck. If you like the idea of practice constraints and limitations and learning how to actually get music into your improv, Mastering Diagonal Arpeggios is a great resource. I share all my tips and tricks to help you confidently practice so that you sound great the very next time you step out for a guitar solo. Grab 20% off by clicking the link below or using coupon code BADPRACTICE. And I'll see you in the lessons. Step 3 of better practice is something that I personally struggled a lot with. And it's interesting because when I was playing exercises or verbatim material, meaning material that I was just copying exactly from an artist or, a score or a book, my rhythm was actually quite good. I had a grasp of quarter notes and eighth notes and triplets and sixteenths. However, when it came time to improvise and be creative, my rhythm would just fall apart. And the most annoying part about that was that I was actually a pretty great student. I practiced what many teachers coached me on, and I mean 4, 6, 8, and even 10-hour practice days. And I'd go to a jam and I would sound like a dummy. It wasn't until way later, because of really one of my most favorite mentors, teachers, and great friend, Mr. Tom Quayle, that I realized about verbatim practice and creative guitar playing, like on the spot improvisation. They use 2 different parts of your brain. So you could have the best rhythm when playing verbatim stuff, but it all falls apart if you don't practice improv with specific rhythms. So I actually developed an exercise that I call consistent rhythms, or subdivision flow practice. And it's simply an improv exercise or improv game where you target specific types of rhythms while you improvise. Let me demonstrate. So you turn on track, and this track, you got quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can play a lot of variations with this, but what I recommend starting out with is grooving on 4 times each. When that's feeling good, I'm using all downstrokes. Move to 2 times each, like this. Still quarters. And I'm improvising. I'm not trying to just play the scale up and down. I'm using my diagonal pentatonic, then 1 time each. I'm really trying to target that beat and really sound as locked in as I can while I'm improvising. 8th notes, 4 times each. Do that for a little bit, then 2s. Then 1s. Now it starts to get a little bit more challenging and move a bit quicker. We go into triplets, 3 times each. Blue note. 1 time. And I really try to make sure I'm not just playing the scale up and down. Try to make sure there's slides, hammer-ons, pull-offs. Finally, 16th notes, F4s. 2s. Now I'd stay a little bit longer on each of those if I was actually practicing, but for demonstration purposes, how about 1s? Try and decorate it, make it sound awesome. Consistent rhythms. Now, if you start to think creatively, you'll realize that there are a lot of cool variations with this exercise that you can apply. Extra flavor by mixing your rhythms, throwing in your hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, bends, and vibrato. But the act of forcing yourself to jam on the essential rhythms will get your improv rhythm ability up to speed much more quickly than anything else. So step 4 is kind of like a bridge between these two. So in step 4, let's talk about building speed. Here's a challenge for you. Stop living in your comfort zone. This one is absolutely 100% backed by learning science. As a creative guitarist in the practice room, mistakes are welcome and encouraged. And I'm not saying that you should be playing poorly all the time, but in order to play faster and better, you absolutely have to break through plateaus and speed ceilings. So I challenge you to stop living in your comfort zone, figure out tempos and rhythm values that are fast for you, and they should really actually feel challenging to you. You should write them down, keep a log of them in your practice log, and go after them for at least a few minutes every day in your practice. For example, when I work on consistent rhythms exercise, like I mentioned in step 3, I generally try to work my way up to around 165 beats per minute with 16th notes. I use Ableton to make it easy to push the tempo with just 1 hit of the up arrow. You could really use any DAW, or even there's a great free plugin that I'll link below called Time Stretch. Fair warning, this exercise is extremely hard. Some days I sound really bad, but living at this tempo with this exercise will teach your brain that you actually can play fast. Science says that we should practice on the edge of our abilities, not within our current comfort zone. For some reason, probably because of ghosts of music teachers past, many of us think that it's more important to perfect things slowly before speeding up. This is not a knock on playing slowly. We should absolutely spend time working things out slowly in our practice. However, slow practice absolutely will not by itself make you a faster player. This is literally like telling an Olympic sprinter that they should train by exclusively practicing walking every day. Think about that. I'll leave this tip right here for you to ponder if that makes sense or not. Let's take a moment and I'll share with you a little bit more lo-fi video of me at my computer showing you actually how I might practice, just trying to max out and top out my speed. And fair warning, it might not sound that great. So I've got my F-Funk groove, which is at about 77 beats per minute. Got my guitar set up. This is in F. All right, so this is pretty easy so far. I'm just gonna go straight to 16th notes, but a lot of times I might work my way through all quarters, eighths, triplets, and 16ths. Let's check it out. 2, 3, 4. So once I feel pretty good with that, I'll hit that tempo and I'll start up arrowing it. 85. As long as you know you're making mistakes, it's totally cool. That's 159. It's getting really tough. Step 5, the final tip. And something I absolutely believe every single musician needs to do on a daily basis. Record yourself. There is no better teacher than a recording of yourself. You might say, but Daniel, I hear myself just fine when I'm practicing. Incorrect. I'm here to tell you that I've never met a person who 100% hears themselves accurately as they play. You might ask why, but if you think about it, as you're playing, there are literally thousands of unconscious things going through your mind, plus the conscious ones. It is extremely hard to hear the way you sound in real time. My challenge to you is to audio or video record yourself on a daily basis. Don't record the entire practice session. Just practice performances or sections or exercises that you're having trouble with. Spot your problem areas. No matter if you have a great guitar teacher or not, you're the only person that is sitting there on a daily basis with yourself as you practice. You can start to see and affect your practice skills in real time from recording. And none of this is about talent. This is about skill building. Forget talent. You're not trying to be Jimmy Page, Eddie Van Halen, or Hendrix. You're just trying to be a better version of your guitar playing self every day. Just forget the others. Stop comparing yourself and just figure out your own weaknesses, then attack them. I'm sorry to say, but talent isn't real. Now that you've got a practice plan together on how to actually get better, make sure to watch this video next in order to learn the 3-2 system and open up the entire fretboard to confidently solo and play creatively across the guitar neck.